Hello everyone, Tmmgamer here. Today I have the pleasure of bringing you another one of my football talk videos, series where I sit down and talk about real life football and all the events that have been going on across the world. And today there is only one thing to talk about, and that is the World Cup final. As most of you guys know, last night Germany triumphed after extra time 1-0 with a goal from Mario Götze after some great work down the left hand side by Andre Schürrle. Absolutely fantastic goal, really well taken, and they won the trophy 1-0. And I have to say, I'm really pleased my prediction came true. I've said right from the start of the tournament I backed the Germans to win and become the first European side to win a World Cup in the Americas, and they managed to do it. And I have to say, overall, I think the best team won the trophy. There's no real doubt in my mind about that. You know, plenty of other good sides out there, plenty of other sides that got tipped for glory at the start of the tournament. But in my opinion, the Germans are just the most all-around team. They've got great players in every single position. They've had a few players really step up when it mattered and score those big goals or put in those big performances. Yeah, they've been dodgy at times during the World Cup, but you know, the World Cup's a long tournament. It's a competitive tournament. You're not going to go out and beat teams 7-1 every game. And the 7-1 brings me on very, very nicely to what I mentioned in my last Football Talk video. You know, when it really mattered, Germany put the performances in to win. And, you know, playing Brazil in the semi-final of a Brazilian World Cup and beating them 7-1 was just incredible. And any team that can do that thoroughly deserves to win the World Cup in my opinion. But let's talk a little bit more about the game last night. I actually expected Germany to win a little bit more comfortably than they did in the end, because, you know, fair play to Argentina. They put a really, really good effort in, and the reason why they have had such a good tournament really comes down to one player, and that isn't Lionel Messi. He has obviously scored goals for them, but the best player for Argentina, in my opinion, has been Javier Mascherano. You know, again last night he was very, very solid. He just breaks up so much of the play, and playing in that holding midfield role, I think it's his best position, because for far too long we've seen him play at centre-back for Barcelona, and it doesn't work. You know, playing in the position where he has done for Argentina as that little spoiler. You know, he goes in, he puts a tackle in, then he just recycles possession and allows Argentina to move forward. He played that role absolutely phenomenally during the World Cup, and he played it really, really well last night. And to be fair as well, Argentina created some chances, and they had really three very, very good chances to take the lead. They had Higuain's chance in the first half when that wayward back header put him in, and that really was just such a terrible finish from Higuain. You put through, you clean through on goal, you're about 12 yards out. Well, I was a little bit further out than that, but even so, under no pressure, just to spanner it wide was just awful. It really was a very, very bad effort. And then in the second half, you had Lionel Messi's left foot shot dragged across the face. That was a tricky chance. You know, the angle was consistently narrowing. He had to take the shot then. That was, you know, a decent effort, very, very close to going in. That was nowhere near as clear-cut as the Higuain chance. And then later on in the game, Palacio threw on goal, and he went for the lob and just got it wrong. You know, he really did get it wrong, and he has by far the most ridiculous hair I've ever seen. You know, I've seen people with afros, with perms, with mullets, all of these people. To have a completely shaved head and that silly little rat tail, not even in the middle, but just like randomly splodged at the right back, and it's really strange. And perhaps if he had a slightly less moronic haircut, he would have scored that goal, but unfortunately, from an Argentinian point of view, he didn't take it, and that allowed Götze's goal to win them the game in extra time, when, you know, really, if you were being hypercritical, Argentina should have scored 3 goals. But saying that, Germany had their chances as well. Huerdes hitting the post with a header. He should have nailed the header. It was a free header about 6 yards out. He got a good run on it, uncontested. He has to do better there. And you know, when he tried to head it, it actually like caught the corner of his head and went off at an angle, and that's what caused him to hit the post. If he'd have caught that flush on his forehead, that was flying in 1-0, and then you back the Germans all the way to win it. But they had a couple of chances as well, tested Romero on a number of occasions, so you know, overall the game was relatively even, and like I mentioned, I was expecting Germany to win it a little bit more comfortably than they did. But this is the World Cup final. People are going to be slightly nervous, people are going to raise their game and battle hard, and it's never going to be a 5-4 thriller, is it, a World Cup final? It's always going to be very tight and tense, and that's the way it proved. It really did. At least it was an open game, a game where both teams wanted to score goals, because we've seen a couple of these games in the knockout stage of the competition get really tight and be massive midfield battles. And although it was 0-0 after 90 minutes, you could never say that Brazil-Argentina became that. There was always a goal threat from somebody at some point. You always felt there was another chance just around the corner. It was an interesting watch, definitely. But let's get on to the most important thing, the second bit of extra time. The goal from Mario Götze. What a brilliantly taken goal that was. It was absolutely great work from Schürrle, who I thought played very, very well in the final. Burst down the left-hand side, put a great ball in. But the best bit of that goal was the finish. Taking it down on your chest and striking it so sweetly on the volley with your weaker foot into the bottom corner past the Russian goalkeeper. It really was a phenomenally well taken goal. And as soon as that went in, you just knew that it was going to take something incredibly special for Argentina to get back into it. And unfortunately, for their point of view, that didn't happen. And Messi had a couple of chances. He had a free kick late on, but he blazed it over, and that was that. And Germany, I have to say, were deserved winners, in my opinion. They really were. Were the best team throughout the tournament, had the most impressive performances and results. And when it mattered, they scored the goals and they kept it tight to win. And I have to say it was a really, really interesting World Cup final and a very, very good performance from them. And the only thing that confused me a little bit last night was after the final whistle, when they were doing the presentations, and Manuel Neuer won the Golden Glove. Again, thoroughly deserved. He's been by far the best goalkeeper in the tournament. Obviously, there have been great individual performances from players like Guilherme Ochoa, the Mexican keeper, or Keylor Navas. He's done very, very well in this tournament as well, and has actually been linked with a number of Premier League clubs after his performances in the World Cup. So they've had great performances and good World Cups, there's no denying that. But Manuel Neuer, for somebody who is the ultimate sweeper keeper, there has never been a goalkeeper, in my opinion, who you have less worry about. This is a keeper who regularly flies 30 yards out of the box to make a slide tackle or head the ball. But every time you see him do it, you go, oh no, he's got that. And that's just the class of the goalkeeper. He is so reassuring to have behind the back four. I mean, when you look at the back four of Germany, we've like Philipp Lahm, Hummels, Boateng and Hernandez, they're not exactly a dodgy back four to begin with. But then you put Manuel Neuer in behind that, who just takes crosses effortlessly, is a fantastic shot stopper, and then sweeps up the play so beautifully. He was the clear Golden Glove winner, and he is clearly the best goalkeeper in the world at the moment. But for the player of the tournament to go to Lionel Messi, I thought that was just so wrong. Because, yeah, Messi's had a decent tournament, he's scored some goals, but he has not been the best player at this tournament. How can you not give it to a James Rodriguez or, like I mentioned earlier, Javier Mascherano? Lionel Messi hasn't even been Argentina's best player at this World Cup. Mascherano has been Argentina's best player. It was just, I don't understand why he was given it. I actually think Adidas had a role in giving that, and there's quite a bit of bias towards Lionel Messi because I think he's an Adidas professional, so that obviously helped him get the award. But I was a little bit surprised. It should have gone to somebody like James Rodriguez or, like I mentioned, Mascherano, anybody like that. Even if it had gone to someone like Philipp Lahm, you wouldn't have argued, because Lahm has been really, really good. He got in the team of the tournament in the number of news articles and things I was reading. Lahm was consistently in that team of the tournament, and you can understand why. He is just the best right back in the world, and that's the key part of that, the best right back in the world. It was so refreshing to see him being played as a right back instead of that stupid holding midfield that Guardiola insists playing him in. It just doesn't work. It doesn't maximise the player's ability, because Lahm is so good at putting crosses in and bombing down the wing, and is also so solid defensively. He's just a perfect fullback. He really, really is. So I thought he was incredible during the tournament. Very, very solid. Led Germany really, really well. And when you consider Lionel Messi got player of the tournament ahead of players like that, it's a little bit disappointing. But that's football for you. It's never exactly been the most open and honest sport in the world, has it, football? So that's a small little blip on what has otherwise been an exceptional tournament. It's the joint record highest number of goals ever scored in the World Cup. Some unbelievable results that I don't think will ever be forgotten, especially the 7-1 thrashing of Brazil by the Germans in the semi-final was absolutely incredible. James Rodriguez's goal was one of the best goals ever scored at a World Cup. Van Persie's header, great header. The defending champions getting thumped by the Dutch 5-1. Everybody thought that would be the shock of the tournament, but then semi-final time, Brazil getting walloped just really did take the biscuit. But it's been a fantastic tournament. It really, really has. You know, so many times. Massive tournaments always fall a little bit below what you're expecting, because you're always expecting, oh, the best players in the world are there, it's gonna be the best football, but it doesn't always happen. The best game I've ever watched in international football prior to this tournament was the Confederations Cup game between Italy and Japan. I think it was just a group game, and there was no real pressure on. Obviously, you want to win the Confederations Cup, but if you gave people the choice of the Confederations Cup or the World Cup, there's only one choice there. By a long way, it's going to be the World Cup, isn't it? So in a tournament like that, both Italy and Japan really went for it. It was end-to-end, chance after chance, save after save, bars getting hit, post, great challenges. It was a 3-2 win to Italy in the end, and it was just the best match I'd ever watched on the international scene. And that was because, like I mentioned, the pressure wasn't as high as it is in the World Cup or a Champions League final or some of those. It's very, very rare when you get an absolutely massive game come out and be sensational football-wise. The other game that immediately springs to mind is the FA Cup final between West Ham and Liverpool a couple of seasons ago, when you had Gerrard with his absolute screamer of an equaliser late on and went to extra time, and you know, that was a really tense but also high quality game. And it's very rare when you get the two come together, but I felt in this World Cup, by and large, it was phenomenal. It really, really was. It was fantastic to view. And obviously the next World Cup's going to be in Russia. Fingers crossed. I hope the Russians do a decent tournament. They put on a pretty sweet Winter Olympics, you know, so fingers crossed they can get it together for the World Cup. They've still got a lot of stadiums to be built, but when you've got Vladimir Putin and, you know, the ability of the Russians just to throw some money at getting these stadiums, but I don't think we'll have any problems with that. But the Germans, again, like I mentioned, very, very worthy winners. And there's been a question, can the Germans actually dominate to the same extent that the Spaniards have done over the last 4, 5, 6 years? Obviously, winning 3 major tournaments in a row is very, very special. And it's going to be very, very difficult for any team to ever be able to do that again. But when you look at this German side, you know, the only player they really need to consider replacing is somebody like Miroslav Klose, because obviously Klose, the record all-time goal scorer at the World Cup finals now, what a phenomenal achievement that is. You know, he thoroughly deserves a World Cup winner's medal. You know, it's been 12 years since he lost in the final in 2002. You know, what a long time ago that was. I can still remember that final, actually, the Ronaldo final, when he scored the brace to beat Germany and send Brazil through as winners. It was unbelievable to think that Miroslav Klose can still turn out at the very highest level and be a threat. And he hasn't scored a goal outside the penalty area in all of his World Cup goals, but that's what you need sometimes. Sometimes you just need a poacher to finish him off. And he's going to be a big loss to Germany, because he is a guaranteed big-time goal scorer. You know, he's not going to be running around, he's not going to be Ronaldoing his way past players, but if that ball drops to him 12 yards out, he will finish. And taking him out of any side would be a big loss. But don't forget, they've been playing with Thomas Muller up front for a fair bit. You know, they've been trying that out in a variety of situations. He scored plenty of goals in the World Cup as well. They are such a solid team. And when you look at the players like Schweinsteiger, Goetze, Royce, I mean, Marco Royce didn't even get to the tournament because of an injury. You've got Draxler, Schürrle, all of these unbelievable players who haven't even reached their peak yet. They're still in their early 20s, and admittedly players like Lahm, you know, pushing on a little bit now in terms of age. They are possibly at their peak, and they might tail off for the next World Cup. But you know, a player like Philipp Lahm is still going to be very, very useful for Germany, at least to the next Euros, and I still think in the next World Cup, because he's just such a gifted player. He's not going to suddenly fall off a cliff and be useless. He will definitely be there or thereabouts for a number of years. And it's actually interesting to see as well Toni Kroos come out and say that he's heading to Real Madrid now. And this just shows just how talented these German players are. You know, they've always been focused in, you know, Bayern Munich or Borussia Dortmund over the last couple of years. But when you get players sign for Real Madrid or sign for Barcelona or be the centre of attention across Europe, that's when you really know that this is a special group of players. And I think the Germans will be there or thereabouts for a long, long time. Because when you compare them to the vast majority of their international rivals, Germany just have the most complete team. They really do. If you look at Brazil, their defence is just abysmal. It's absolutely abysmal. Yeah, they've got some flair players. They've got players like Neymar who can do decent work, but they've got some very average players. If you look at Argentina, exactly the same. Some real class in that team, but then some really average players. Look at France, for example. They lack that whole team ethic that the Germans seem to have. You know, it was only 4 years ago that there was a massive player revolt in the French team, and yeah, they looked a lot more together this tournament, but they don't have that same desire and that same unifying instinct that the Germans seem to have. And you can go through a number of other teams and say exactly the same thing. So when you look at this German team, I can't look too far past them for the Euros at the moment. Spain are part of, you know, they need to rebuild now. They really do. This could very well be the last tournament for players like, you know, Casillas or Xavi, you know, Torres. All of these players have been stalwart to the international team for a long, long time, and now they're probably going to be on their way. How are Spain going to replace them? They've got a lot of young players who have talent, but are they going to step up when it really matters? And this is the interesting thing now. The cycle starts again. Preparation starts from now for the next World Cup, and it's been a phenomenal tournament. I really hope you guys have enjoyed it as much as I have, because I've absolutely loved it. But once again, thank you so much to you guys for listening to the video. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Like I've just touched on, I'd be really interested to find out what you had to say and what you think about the final and the tournament as a whole. Do you think the Germans now are going to step up and dominate world football for the foreseeable future, or will a new challenger arise and steal the Germans' crown in Russia in 4 years? Once again, guys, thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.